Well, welcome to today's webinar. I am Sandra Upton with the Cultural Intelligence Center, and I, along with my colleagues, we are just thrilled that you have taken time out of what we know are busy schedules, especially in the midst of such uncertain times, to join us for today's conversation. Before we get started with the content, you should see on your screen a few tips that we want to offer to you so that you can maximize your experience as we spend the next hour together. The first thing I want to mention is that this session is a live broadcast. We are recording it, so you are able to come back and listen to it again. We also know that we've had several folks reach out to us and cannot join the webinar, but are interested in listening to the recording. So it will be available to everyone, and you can spread the word. You'll notice that we have muted your phone just to minimize distractions during the presentation. And if you're using your computer to listen, that's great too, but all of that has been muted. If you have questions, and we hope that you do, again, we've got a fantastic set of panelists today, and we're hoping that the things that we share will resonate with you and spark some curiosity and questions. And so you'll notice that there is a questions box on your screen, and we are going to hold off on answering those questions until the last 15 minutes of the webinar. But by all means, whenever a thought comes to your mind, please take advantage of the questions box and type in that, and we'll be sure to do everything we can to get to it when we start the Q&A. And then lastly, just because of the size of the attendees, this is a record number of attendees for this webinar, we're unable to assist you with any technical issues that you might have. We hope that you don't, but if you do, we just would encourage you to use the links and resources that were provided in the communication that we sent to you as you were preparing for the webinar. So again, thank you for being here. Again, we've got a large group of folks, many from North America, but we also have folks from the UK. We have folks from Australia. We have folks from New Zealand. So we're just delighted that you are here. So we're going to get started, okay? So the title of today's webinar is Strategic Responses and Best Practices for Developing Business Students CQ in the Online Classroom. Again, we've got a rock star panelist here, starting with myself. I am, again, Sandra Upton. My position is the Vice President of Educational Initiatives with the Cultural Intelligence Center. So I oversee all of the work that we do in the education space, both domestically as well as globally. And we also dabble in the pre-K through 12 space, although this focus today is higher education and specifically business schools. So again, welcome. And I'm going to pass it over to Eric to introduce himself.
My name is Eric Schueller. I am the Education Partnership Manager for the Cultural Intelligence Center. I work with our institutions of higher education and K-12 school districts who are new to implementing cultural intelligence on campus. With that, I will turn it over to Juliane.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juliane Iannavelli, Vice President and Chief Knowledge Officer at AACSB International. I work with our Business Education Intelligence team. So happy to be here today. Thank you, Sandra and Eric, for the invitation.
Hello, everyone. Jennifer Mcintosh here, also from AACSB International. I'm the Vice President and Chief Talent Officer, and also want to thank Sandra and Eric for today's opportunity to connect with you.
Fantastic, and thank you all for those introductions. So we're going to dive right into our content today. And just to give you an overview of what you can expect in terms of an agenda, Juliane is actually going to kick us off and talk a little bit about, just given the crisis that we are in the midst of, this pandemic. She's going to talk about how business schools are responding to the shift that is required, that has been required, and that will continue to be required by all of us. I will then jump in along with Eric and talk a little bit about some best practices for developing student CQ in the online classroom, especially during this pandemic, but also thinking beyond it. And then Jennifer is going to jump in and talk a little bit about the future, right? And what's the impact on, what will be the impact in terms of recruiting students, recruiting business students to our campuses. And then what is that relationship between CQ and recruitment. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to spend the last 15 minutes answering any of your questions that you might have, and then we will certainly wrap up promptly at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Juliane.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm pleased to be here with all of you today and to kick us off with a bit of context around the decisions and actions that are being undertaken today at business schools. First, a little bit about AACSB. If you're not familiar with us as an organization, we are a network of business schools and other organizations with an interest in business education. And our network spans more than about 1,600 business school or business education providers in 100 countries and territories. So we consider that to be a pretty diverse network in terms of geography and mission and the student population served, the local economies, and so much more. And we see across that network schools being impacted in many similar ways, but also some very different ways. The one thing that we do know is that